All right, we are into adding and subtracting fractions right now, and these fractions have the same denominator, and we're also asking students to understand addition and subtraction of fractions. We want them to understand that that's the joining or separating of parts, but they have to be referring to the same whole. So that's what we've been working on this week with our book, and it's going to continue for the next couple of weeks, and we're going to build on this concept. So I predict that I'm going to make some more videos that kind of build on what we're doing, but we have two main strategies for adding or subtracting fractions, and I'm going to show for the first one, if I was going to add 4 fifths plus 3 fifths. One way I can do that is to create a number line, and I need to make space above that number line, so I'll start with my arrows, and over here I'm going to start, this is going to be 0 fifths. Now in this case I'm going to just start making these lines, and I'll go back and label in a few. But I need to make the lines so they're pretty much the same distance apart, and I know that's kind of hard to do, but just make it close. So hopefully right now I made enough lines, but we'll figure that out in a little bit. The kids are learning or have learned how to label this, so they should know that this is 1 fifth. The next is 2 fifths. The next is 3 fifths, 4 fifths, and then 5 fifths, and they're really getting good at telling me that this is 1 whole. So then we have more than 1 whole, and that's going to be 6 fifths, 7 fifths, 8 fifths, 9 fifths, and 10 fifths, 11 fifths, 12 fifths, and 13 fifths. Now, I know for a fact that I made this way too big, bigger than I had to. Nothing's wrong here, but I made this bigger than I had to. 10 fifths also, we could label that as 2 wholes, and the kids are starting to understand that. But the first thing I do is I take my first fraction, which is 4 fifths, and I'm just going to make a rectangle here, starting at 0 fifths going to 4 fifths. And inside, part of the standard that they need to know is that, yeah, this is 4 fifths, but this 4 fifths is made up of parts that are the size of 1 fifth. So I have 4 parts that are the size of 1 fifth. So I have 1 fifth, each of these are 1 fifth. I have 4 1 fifth parts. And so we will be joining 4 1 fifth parts to 3 1 fifth parts. And so all I do is add another box that's worth 3 1 fifth parts. And so I should see that at the end my fraction that lines up with my bar is 7 fifths. And so that's really all we're asking them to do right now. But the thing that I like about the number line is that it does show the kids that these fractions are made up of 1 fifth parts. And so that 4 fifths is really 4 1 fifth parts, and 3 fifths is 3 1 fifth parts. And so that really shows that and helps their understanding. The other way we have learned to add fractions is to draw an area model. So area model is the same term we used in multiplication and division. Basically what we're doing is drawing a picture. I like to use rectangles, the kids know that. It's a little bit more accurate when you draw your spaces. You can draw circles. Sometimes it's hard to get equal groups. So I'm going to draw, for this I'm going to draw a rectangle. And so I would start, I need to draw one rectangle to start. My denominator, which is 5, tells me I need this rectangle to have 5 parts. So I'd just draw 1, 2, 4 lines is going to make 5 parts. So I have 5 parts, they're pretty close to equal. And what I'm going to do is shade 4 of them in. So 1, I tell them don't make this neat. It's actually easier to see when you draw it, shade it like this, as opposed to shading the whole thing in. Then you can't see your lines anymore. But this is 4/5. I need to add 3 more fifths to it. And when I do that, now I've shaded 1/5, I've ran out of parts. What I need to do is make a new model, same size, hopefully, make 5 more parts. So not as neat, but still does the job. I colored in 1, I need to color in 2, 3 parts. And so what I would do is count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 parts. 5 parts make a whole, so my fraction is 7/5. Either way, I come up with the same thing, and that's adding fractions. Let's take the same problem and now make it subtraction. So they're also learning how to do this. In this case, I only need one fraction model. I guess I might as well erase that too. So what I would do if I was going to make this model, the fraction model, I would make my model the same way I did before, make a rectangle, make 5 parts. I think that's going to be pretty big. So I'm going to shade in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4/5. And what I would do, I'll just simply cross out one piece at a time. 1, 2, and 3/5. So that means I'm left with 1/5. And I can also make this using a number line, which our kids have used. I'd say the area model is definitely the quickest, but the number line gets our kids to understand that these are made up of 1/5 parts. So I start with my number line. With subtraction, it's kind of nice because I know on my number line that I can start. I'm going to start with 0/5, and I only need to make 4 lines right now. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Because 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, and 4/5. That's going to be my biggest fraction that I'm going to have. So I start with 4/5, I draw a rectangle. I'm going to draw in my 1/5 parts. 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, and 1/5. And so what I'm going to do, my problem says to take away 3/5, and to show that, I've been showing the kids too, you can cross them off. It's probably the easiest way. But also draw another, you could also draw another model up above, which is what our book shows to do, so I really prefer them to do that just so they see that, but common sense says crossing them off is a little quicker. But 1/5, we take away 3/5, and that's made up of 3 1/5 parts, and it means I'm left with 1/5, and that ends, that bar ends right here at this fraction. You can also see that's what's left. So 4/5 minus 3/5 is 1/5. That's what we're doing with adding and subtracting fractions with like denominators, learning that we're just joining or separating parts. They have to have the same whole, so I can't have like a king-size candy bar compared to a fun-size candy bar. Half of each would not be the same, and the kids understand that piece as well. As we move along, we're going to move into we're gonna move into adding and subtracting mixed numbers as well with like denominators, and also putting these in word problems. So this is the base, and we're going to build off of this. So if they can do this, they're in good shape.